The story begins with a young dreamer, born into a legacy of wealth and ambition, yet weighed down by the crushing expectations of a family empire. My name is Ethan Caldwell, and I grew up in the shadow of Caldwell Enterprises, a sprawling conglomerate built by my grandfather's grit and my father's cunning. From the outside, it looked like I had it all: private schools, luxury cars, and a last name that opened doors. But beneath the polished surface, I was drowning in self-doubt. I wasn't the golden child my parents envisioned. I was the one who flunked out of business school, the one whose startup ideas crashed and burned before they even left the ground. Every misstep was a headline, every failure a family meeting where my father's disappointment cut deeper than any critic's words. By 25, I was labeled the black sheep, the one who couldn't measure up. Yet something inside me refused to quit. I remember sitting in my tiny apartment, staring at a bank account with less than $1,000, wondering how I'd ever claw my way back. That was the moment I decided to stop running from the empire and start fighting for it. I didn't know how, but I knew I'd find a way. This wasn't just about money, it was about proving to myself and to them that I wasn't a lost cause. The journey to buy back my family's empire began with a single, reckless promise to myself. I'd turn every failure into a stepping stone. Failure wasn't new to me, but this time it felt like the world was watching. After dropping out of college, I tried my hand at 3 startups, each one a spectacular disaster. The first was a tech app that tanked because I trusted the wrong partners. The second, a green energy venture, collapsed under my naive budgeting. The third, a food delivery service that never made it past the prototype because I couldn't secure funding. The press had a field day, calling me the Caldwell curse. My father, a man who turned a single factory into a global brand, didn't hide his frustration. "You're wasting our name," he'd say, his voice cold as steel. But those failures taught me something no business school could: resilience. I started studying the empire's inner workings, sneaking into board meetings as a lowly intern, listening to executives who barely acknowledged me. I took notes on everything: supply chains, mergers, even the way my father negotiated. I worked nights at a diner to pay for online courses in finance and strategy, piecing together the skills I'd need. Slowly, I began to see the empire not as a burden, but as a puzzle. I wasn't ready yet, but I was learning. Each rejection, each closed door was fuel. I told myself I'd buy the empire, not inherit it. That meant starting from nothing, building my own wealth, and proving I could play their game better than they ever expected. The first real breakthrough came unexpectedly. I stumbled across a failing logistics company, a small player in the empire's supply chain. It was bleeding money, but I saw potential where others saw a lost cause. With every cent I'd saved from odd jobs and a loan from a friend who believed in me, I bought it for pennies on the dollar. My family laughed. Another Ethan folly, they called it. But I wasn't deterred. I spent sleepless nights restructuring the company, firing corrupt managers, and renegotiating contracts. I learned to charm suppliers and outsmart competitors. Within a year, that little company turned a profit. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I reinvested every dollar, buying up another struggling firm, then another. My father noticed but didn't comment. My sister, the perfect sibling who'd always outshone me, raised an eyebrow but said nothing. I didn't need their approval, yet I needed results. Each acquisition was a brick in my foundation, a step toward the empire. I wasn't just buying businesses. I was buying respect, piece by piece. The failures of my past were now lessons, etched into every decision I made. I wasn't the kid who'd failed anymore. I was the man who'd learned how to win. By 30. I'd built a small but growing portfolio of companies, each one a testament to my refusal to give up. But the empire was still out of reach. Caldwell Enterprises was a behemoth spanning real estate, manufacturing, and tech. To buy it, I'd need billions, not millions. I knew I couldn't do it alone. I started seeking out allies, people who'd been overlooked or burned by my family's ruthless tactics. There was Maria, a brilliant CFO who'd been passed over for promotion because she didn't fit the mold. I hired her, and she became my right hand, crunching numbers and spotting opportunities I'd have missed. Then there was Raj, a tech genius who'd been sued by my father's company over a patent dispute. I offered him a partnership instead of a fight. Together, we built a lean, innovative machine that started catching the industry's attention. We launched a logistics platform that undercut the empire's prices while maintaining quality. The press, once my enemy, began to whisper about Ethan's comeback. My father invited me to dinner for the first time in years, but I declined. I wasn't ready to face him, not until I could look him in the eye as an equal. Every deal, every late night was a step closer to that moment. The turning point came when I targeted a key division of the empire, Caldwell Shipping. It was the heart of their operations, but mismanagement had left it vulnerable. My father was distracted by a hostile takeover bid from a rival, and the board was in chaos. I saw my chance. With Maria and Raj, I crafted a plan to buy the division out from under them. We worked in secret, securing investors who believed in my vision. I leveraged every connection I'd made, every lesson I'd learned. The negotiations where brutal board members who'd once dismissed me now saw me as a threat. I didn't just want the division. I wanted to prove I could run it better. After months of sleepless nights and high-stakes meetings, we closed the deal. I owned a piece of the empire. The news hit like a thunderbolt. My sister called, furious, accusing me of betrayal. My father sent a single email. Well played. For the first time, I felt the weight of his respect, but I wasn't done. Owning a piece wasn't enough. I wanted the whole thing. The empire was still my family's, but now I was a player in their game. Running Caldwell Shipping was my proving ground. I slashed inefficiencies, modernized tech, and empowered employees who'd been ignored for years. Profits soared, and the industry took notice, but the empire was fighting back. My father, sensing my ambition, tightened his grip on the remaining divisions. He hired new executives, loyal only to him, and launched a PR campaign painting me as a reckless upstart. I didn't flinch. I knew the empire's weaknesses better than anyone. Decades of complacency had left cracks in its foundation. I targeted those cracks, acquiring smaller competitors and integrating them into my growing network. My companies weren't just profitable, they were agile, innovative, and hungry. I started to see the empire not as an untouchable giant, but as a collection of parts I could claim one by one. Maria warned me about overreaching, but I couldn't stop. This wasn't just about business, it was personal. Every victory was a rebuttal to the years of being called a failure. I was rewriting my story, and the world was starting to read it. The final move was the riskiest. Caldwell Enterprises was now a wounded giant, its stock plummeting after a series of bad investments. My father was aging, and my sister, though brilliant, lacked the vision to steer it through the storm. I gathered my allies and made an offer to buy the entire company. The board laughed at first Ethan, the dropout, daring to take it all. But my track record spoke louder than their doubts. I'd turned failing companies into gold. I'd outmaneuvered them at every turn. The negotiations stretched for months, with every meeting a battle of wills. My father sat across from me, his eyes searching for the boy he'd written off. Instead, he saw a man who'd built his own empire from nothing. In the end, we struck a deal. I bought Caldwell Enterprises, not with family money, but with the wealth I'd earned through grit and strategy. The day I signed the papers, I didn't feel triumph, I felt peace. I'd proven them wrong, not by destroying the empire, but by saving it. Today, I stand at the helm of Caldwell Enterprises, not as an heir, but as its architect. The empire is leaner, stronger, and more innovative than ever. I've kept the best of my family's legacy while cutting away the rot. Maria is now CEO of our tech division. Raj leads innovation. And we've built a culture where failure isn't a death sentence, it's a teacher. I think back to that kid in the tiny apartment, staring at a nearly empty bank account, and I smile. Every failure was a lesson, every setback a setup for a comeback. This journey wasn't just about buying an empire. It was about rewriting my destiny. To anyone watching this, know this. Your failures don't define you, your refusal to stay. Down does. I'm Ethan Caldwell, and I turned my family's empire into my own, not by birthright, but by fighting for every inch. The story isn't over. This is just the beginning.